WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's former finance minister Foriata declared wanted again by a special prosecutor.
His name is hereby re-entered on the OSP's list of wanted persons. The OSP will take all necessary legal steps to secure Mr. Foriata's return to the jurisdiction and to answer to the criminal inquiries against him.
Cote d'Ivoire's Electoral Commission to release presidential list on Wednesday, June 4 ahead of October polls. Trial of presidential jet purchase continues this Tuesday in Mali, and death toll in Niger's Mokwa flooding in Nigeria rises to over 200.
You know, the numbers, nobody can tell you the number of casualty in Niger State right now. The cops, we're still looking for them, but now we have more than 200 numbers of casualty.
Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. This afternoon we'll begin in Ghana, where the former finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta has once again been declared a wanted man by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. This follows his failure to appear in person for questioning, despite multiple invitations from the OSP in connection with ongoing investigations into alleged corruption and financial misconduct during his time in office. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Etete reports.
The Special Prosecutor Kisija Bing says the patience of his office has run out with Mr. Ofori-Atta, who has failed to honor repeated invitations to respond to ongoing criminal proceedings. At a press briefing on Monday, June 2, the OSP rejected a request by the former minister's legal team for a virtual session citing medical treatment abroad.
If we were amenable to taking any such statement from Mr. Ofori-Atta in absentia, we would have done so in February and not waited to 2 June 2025. We want him here physically, and we insist on it. A suspect in a criminal investigation does not pick and choose how the investigative authority should conduct its investigations and the method suitable to him and his convenience.
Ken Ofori-Atta has now been officially reinstated on the OSP's list of wanted persons and is considered a fugitive from justice.
His name is hereby re-entered on the OSP's list of wanted persons. The OSP will take all necessary legal steps to secure Mr. Ofori-Atta's return to the jurisdiction and to answer to the criminal inquiries against him. In pursuance of this, about 30 minutes before this briefing, I triggered processes for the issuance of an Interpol red notice for the location and provisional arrest of Mr. Kenneth Nanayao Ofori-Atta.
The issuance of an Interpol red notice could lead to Mr. Ofori-Atta's provisional arrest and extradition from any jurisdiction. The former Minister of Finance is under investigation for a number of high-profile cases, including suspected financial misconduct, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. Key areas under scrutiny include revenue deals between Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited and the GRA, the termination of an ECG contract with Chinese firm BXC, the controversial National Cathedral project, procurement of ambulances, and the handling of the GRA Tax P Fund. For WADR, Nadi Etete, Accra.
Still in Ghana, the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the opposition New Patriotic Party, NPP, Bernard Antwi Biosiako, popularly known as Chairman Wotumi, has been released from the custody of the Economic and Organized Crime Office after successfully meeting his bail conditions. The General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodwa, confirmed his release on the evening of Monday in an interview with the media. He commended the NPP's Dr. Brian Achiabong, who provided one of the sureties for Chairman Wotumi's release. Chairman Wotumi was granted bail to the tune of 50 million Ghana cedi with 2 sureties to be justified following his arrest on Tuesday, May 27, in connection with ongoing investigations into alleged fraud, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. His release follows a period of intense legal maneuvering and political pressure, which saw Wotumi's legal team struggle to meet the hefty bail terms, leading to days in detention. Here is NPP chieftain Dr. Brian Achiabong speaking to the media.
I mean, it's a legal process. He got bail and he's on his way home. I'm not interested in those comments. It serves us no good. What is important is that one of us was in trouble He was arrested. We needed, as part of the legal process, provide surety for bail. That has been done. He's been released. We wait for the next steps. That's what it is. It's a process.
NPP chieftain and former Trade Minister Dr. Brian Acheampong speaking there. In neighboring Côte d'Ivoire, the country's electoral umpire will on Wednesday, June 4, 2025, publish the final electoral roll for the presidential election scheduled for October. According to the Independent Electoral Commission (CEI), over 8 million voters have been registered following a recent revision of the electoral register. However, the list has drawn criticism as it reportedly excludes several opposition figures, raising concerns about the transparency and inclusiveness of the electoral process. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
According to the Independent Electoral Commission, the final electoral roll will be officially published on Wednesday, June 4th, and will be accessible on the Commission's website. The Commission President, Ibrahima Coulibaly Quibet, confirmed on Monday that the Commission has complied with all judicial rulings that led to the removal of several key opposition figures from the electoral register. Those affected include Tijan Cham of the PDCI, former President Laurent Gbagbo, former Prime Minister Guillaume Soro, and former Minister of Youth Affairs Charles Blé Goudé. All four had been declared presidential candidates by their respective political parties for the October election, but are now ineligible to contest the October polls. The final electoral list includes 8.7 million registered voters, an increase of 700,000 from previous figures. Here is Ibrahima Coulibaly Quibet speaking.
Elle peut comporter des imperfections, mais c'est notre liste électorale.
It can have imperfections, but it is our electoral list. We must assume it without holding back, without passion, without belligerence. Together we must improve it. The imperfections that are substantial and that were brought to the knowledge of the Independent Electoral Commission with support have been corrected. Those that, without being denounced, remain on the electoral list are made harmless thanks to the biometry that prevents them from affecting the sincerity of the scrutiny.
Est donc fiable et crédible.
Meanwhile, the number of polling centers has risen to over 11,900, while polling stations now total more than 26,600. Presidential candidates have nearly 3 months to gather the necessary endorsements. To qualify, each must obtain signatures from at least 1% of the electorate in 17 of Côte d'Ivoire's 33 regions and districts. The submission deadline for presidential candidacies is set for the end of July.
Abdullah Hassan with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko arrived Monday in Freetown, the Sierra Leonean capital, for a working and friendship visit. Sonko landed at around 7:30 p.m. at Lung International Airport near Freetown from Guinea, the second leg of a tour he began in Côte d'Ivoire last Thursday. He was welcomed by the Vice President of Sierra Leone and other officials. Ousmane Sonko will be received on Tuesday by Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio at the State House. He will then hold a working session with the Vice President, which will be extended to members of the governments of both countries. The Sierra Leone leg of the Senegalese head of government's tour will be marked by activities related to the mining sector. His agenda includes presentations on the mining and energy sectors, as well as a visit to the Marampa mining site located near the town of Lunsur. The Prime Minister concludes a 6-day tour of Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea and Sierra Leone on Tuesday afternoon. Now let's turn our attention to some legal matters, starting in Benin, where reactions are emerging following the 2-year prison sentence handed down to online activist Steve Amosu. Amosu, who denies the charges against him, was also ordered to pay a fine of 2 million CFA francs, approximately $3,500. However, one of his lawyers, Abubakar Baparape, responded swiftly to the verdict on Monday. Although his client has 2 weeks to file an appeal, Counsellor Barape stated that he will not be able to challenge the sentence. Here is an extract of his reaction.
We are really disappointed with a case that is not one. We were looking at the articulation of the facts and the way in which our client was removed and brought back to justice. And above all, the victims were exposed as a means of defense. And from the expectation of the entire population, we were entitled to a fair justice. I will say that there was a kind of iniquity in this procedure because the accusation did not provide the proof that it was a crime. We were truly entitled to wait for a more recent release of at least a release for the benefit of doubt.
Councillor Abubakar Barape is a lawyer of Beninese activist Steve Amosu. Well, still on legal matters, but in Bali, where the trial of the presidential jet and military equipment purchase continues this Tuesday in Bamako. The hearing, which began on Monday, was suspended to allow for full assessment of Wadr Sisoko's health. The former Minister of Economy and Finance is being prosecuted for embezzlement of public funds estimated at 130 billion CFA francs. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Buhari Sisoko once again appeared in court on a stretcher as she did during last week's hearing. The former Minister of Economy was accompanied by a medical doctor. At the start of the session, defense lawyers presented a medical report from the hospital in Mali, where Sisoko is currently hospitalized, arguing that she lacks the physical and mental capacity to stand trial due to multiple health conditions. As the prosecution prepared to deliver its closing argument, Sisoko, visibly in pain, suddenly collapsed in the courtroom. The distressing scene prompted the presiding judge to temporarily suspend proceedings. Meanwhile, the prosecution denounced the incident as a possible medical charade and called for stronger coordination between health and judicial institutions to prevent what it described as an attempt to obstruct the course of justice. The hearing is scheduled to resume this Tuesday with a more detailed evaluation of Sisoko's health condition, followed by the continuation of the prosecution's closing arguments.
Christopher Teacher filed that voiced that report as filed in by our Bamako correspondent Aliu Cham. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM in Dakar and online on wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's former finance minister Furiata declared wanted again by special prosecutor. Cote d'Ivoire's Electoral Commission to release a presidential list on Wednesday, June 4, ahead of October polls. Trials of presidential jet purchase continues this Tuesday in Mali. And still ahead in the news, death toll in Niger State's Mokwa flooding in Nigeria rises to over 200. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sport news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org, and you can follow our live stream on YouTube and Facebook. Let's head now to Nigeria, where at least 33 people have been confirmed dead and several others remain missing following coordinated attacks on Gwer West and Upper local government areas of Benue State North Central region. The violence, which occurred on Sunday evening in Naka Town, the headquarters of Gwer West local government area, is believed to have been carried out by suspected herdsmen. Multiple bodies were recovered, while many residents have been displaced and are currently seeking refuge in a nearby primary school. Theophilo Samba, journalist based in Benue State, provides details of the unfolding.
The communities are deserted as we speak. Neighboring communities are also deserted for fear of attacks. They flee the communities, so they are no longer there. The IDP camps have increased, have seen an sharp increase in numbers. As a matter of fact, as we speak, relief materials are not in the number they should be. They are not enough, the ones that are provided at the moment by the state government and other organizations, particularly the IMO, which has been here supporting the State Emergency Management Agency and some other non-governmental organizations. They've been here to also try to support the IDPs through the numerous IDP camps that are available. It is not the first time, but the recent attacks have been more frequent. This is the most consistent Benue has had attacks. The space in between those attacks was sometimes 2 months, in some cases even 3-6 months interval before we had a recurrence. But this time, there was another attack 1 week ago, around a town close to Makurdi. It's called Agam. And a few persons were killed. 3 persons were killed. They were shot at. They were on their farm, according to the ones of survivor witness account. They just started shooting at them straight up. And 3 of them lost their lives and the others got various degrees of injuries.
Theophilo Samba is a journalist in Benue State, north-central Nigeria. Will be joining him more in the guest interview segment. In the meantime, still in Nigeria, the Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs in Niger State, Hamad Suleiman, says more than 200 corpses of victims have been recovered after devastating floods hit the Mokwa local government area of the state. Suleiman said the Onabago administration in the north-central state has activated an emergency response and directed the distribution of relief materials to the displaced victims of the floods who are housed in makeshift camps. Meanwhile, victims at the camps continue to voice their dissatisfaction over the handling of relief efforts.
You know, the numbers, nobody can tell you the number of casualty in Niger State right now, because up to now, the cops, we're still looking for them, and the numbers of them, when we tell you this is the actual number, by now we have more than 200 numbers of casualty or corpse. But we're still looking for more, because we were told by the Mapa local government that they're still discovering corpse up to now. So we are trying to wait for them and know the actual number of corpse before giving you this is the figures. But now, sincerely speaking, we cannot ascertain. When I can estimate the number, it will be by now it's more than 200 to 300. That is why I told you I will not give you the actual number of it. But the disaster is a natural disaster, not about the poor government. But as I'm telling you right now, the Niger State government put things in place, and there are a lot of contribution from various agencies and ministries.
That was Niger State's Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Hamad Suleiman, speaking there. In the meantime, a high-level delegation from India arrived in Liberia to strengthen collaboration amid growing threat of terrorism in the sub-region. The visit aims to enhance dialogue on peace and international solidarity, marking a key moment in the evolving relationship between the two nations. Upon arrival in Monrovia, the Indian delegation led by Dr. Shrikant Shinde received a warm welcome from both the Liberian Senate and House of Representatives. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker report.
Dr. Shinde used the opportunity to express heartfelt gratitude to Liberian lawmakers, underscoring the urgency of collaborative global action against terrorism. He recounted the harrowing details of terrorist attack in India in April 2025, which targeted citizens and scared the SARS, resulting in tragic loss of life. According to Dr. Shinde, the perpetrators were linked to groups based in Pakistan, despite India's continued efforts to pursue peace through diplomatic engagement. In a strong show of solidarity, the Indian parliamentarian called on Liberia to stand with India in the global fight against terrorism.
India has been suffering this kind of terrorist attacks and cross-border terrorism over a period of time. So we are here to tell you the story of India and how India has been fighting, battling with this monster called terrorism.
Liberian Senate Pro Tempore Yombli Kanga Lawrence responded with compassion and resolve by extending heartfelt condolences to the Indian people for their losses and unequivocally condemning all forms of terrorism. She reaffirmed Liberia's commitment to promoting global peace and security, emphasizing the significance of the Indian delegation's decision to engage Liberia alongside 6 African nations in this crucial dialogue.
I would hope that these engagements will deepen our relationship and strongly condemn the acts of terrorism. We also want to reiterate that fighting for a just and peaceful world.
This visit sanctifies not just a diplomatic engagement, but a united front against the threats to global peace, a testament to the power of international collaboration in pursuit of a safer world. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Well, we'll remain in Monrovia with Abraham Parker with the Newspaper Review.
Inquirer Newspaper, Volume 34, Number 93. With this first story, Liberia, 4 African countries pledged US $16 million to African Development Bank. Stakeholders validate ECOWAS protection human security report in Liberia. Government and ROM empower 17 female trafficking survivors. Up next is the front page Africa Newspaper. Grassroots Awakening advocacy group Stand launches a door-to-door campaign ahead of nationwide protest. The Solidarity and Trust for a New Day, an advocacy group in Liberia, have informed the country that on July 17, 2025, they will stage a protest where about 100,000 citizens will come out to protest against the Bouakas-led administration for what they term as a bad leadership with the slogan, "Enough is enough." Still on the front page Africa Newspaper, former President George Weah and ANC political leader Alexander Cummings hold private meeting amid rising political speculation. From religious to political cancer, former Liberia Council Church's president warns against betraying public trust, urges focus on mediation and advocacy. Strengthening Liberia-India friendship. India dedication wraps up visit with pledge to back Liberia's UN Security Council Day. Our next and last stop is the Independent Newspaper. Liberia pays US $7.4 million deal to IMO for 2026. Government to launch free national health insurance. Telecommunications Authority to lead the exercise. And Liberia's D-Day as the UN hosts Security Council polls today. Foreign Ministry hosts open watch party of the voting proceedings. Well, that does it for this Tuesday's edition of Press Review. From Liberia's capital, it's back to you in studio.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
All right, this afternoon we are continuing the discussion in Nigeria about the latest attack where at least 33 people have been confirmed dead and several others remain missing following coordinated attacks on Gwer West and upper local government areas of Benue State, north-central Nigeria. The violence, which occurred on evening in Dakar town, the headquarters of Gwer West local government area in Nigeria's north-central region, is believed to have been carried out by suspected herdsmen. Well, Theophilus Samba, journalist based in Benue State, tells us more about this incident and perhaps what could have been the motivation for this attack.
The motivation is unclear for now because some say it's revenge mission. Some communities who rustle their cattle, some say it's because those communities are communities where the herders were attacked, their ancestors were attacked during the Usman Danfodio era. Others are saying they are just here to land grab. It's a complete takeover. It's an agenda to take over the lands because in places where some of the communities where the locals are displaced, we have the herders occupying those communities. They are staying, they are residing in those communities, using their houses, and other facilities that are there. So they've displaced in some communities and permanently inhabited. So some people are saying the motivation is a total takeover, a total grabbing of the land, especially most land, and probably some are saying even the whole of Benue State is their target. And they've come in from neighboring West African countries and other countries. And in fact, in Maiduguri, there was a report recently that there was a foreigner as well. There was a video evidence of a foreigner among a Pakistani national. From the looks of it, I saw a video like that was circulated on Twitter. And there was evidence of somebody who was amongst the attackers who was not a Nigerian. So the motivation for now is sketchy, It's unclear at the moment what the end motivation, the end agenda is at the moment, but the frequency most definitely there at the moment. Very frequent at the moment. Max 1 week, maximum 1 week at the moment is how frequent the attacks are coming in right now.
How would you describe those that have been killed, including those that have been kidnapped?
Sorry to paint the graphic picture. I saw a video of somebody whose hand was almost cut off. I know a bullet can do that, but a machete too can do it. I've seen serious deep cuts, so that can be bullets. So the attacks have been brutal. They've been very brutal attacks. So that's just how to describe it. Because, of course, most times they come in the wake, they're in the dark, so they are not seen until they get to very close range. And then at that point-blank range, the shots are usually brutal and injurious gravely injurious to the deceased and those who survive. Would you mind stating whether or not most of those killed and kidnapped are farmers or herders? I don't think we've had any case, any reports, any known report of any herder killed. It's majorly the farmers that have been killed so far, and with name placed on many of them. Many of them are, your social media in Benue here, you see people mourning their loved ones who are majorly farmers. They put names on them.
Theophilo Samba is a journalist in Benue State, North Central Nigeria. Well, in sport news, let's join Christopher Ticho here with the latest transfer news. What's cooking, Chris? Welcome.
Yes, the Blues is in the news because there is latest transfer from them. And it's because English Premier League side Chelsea has announced the signing of Portuguese midfielder Dario Isugu on Monday from Sporting Lisbon of a deal worth 18 million euros, which is equivalent to $25 million. Now, the 20-year-old boy who spent his last season on loan at Spanish side Las Palmas as they were relegated from La Liga will be available to feature for the Blues at the Club World Cup level this month, and that's a good news for the youngster. But again, on the African continent, Senegal's under-18 national team made a good start at the Union of European Football Association UEFA Friendship Tournament, defeating Uruguay 4-0 in Nyon, Switzerland. The UEFA Friendship Tournament, which opened over the weekend, will continue until June 10, 2025 in Switzerland. And it is interesting to note that the Lion clubs are participating for the first time in the tournament, bringing together 8 selections. And Senegal is the only African nation invited to this the UEFA tournament. And that's a good news. But let me bring you the groupings. And so UEFA is paired along Japan, Uruguay and Portugal, and then they would also be facing off Japan on Wednesday and then Portugal next Saturday for their final group match. And then Group A consists of the United States, France, Australia and Argentina. And that ends sports.
Indeed, many thanks, Chris, and we wish the
Senegalese
team the best in this tough group that they are in.
Yes.
All right, that's sport news. And that's a wrap on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Fali Luso and Umud Enugu for the technical support. Do connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X from the Twitter, Instagram, at WADR News. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio